All right, everybody, welcome to Disclosure TV.
This is not a test.
Welcome to Disclosure TV. What is up? It's been a while since I went live. And everybody has seen over the last few days, it's been crazy. Shooting in Christchurch, New Zealand. There's been a lot of things going on in Christchurch, New Zealand. Several high-profile earthquakes have been going on there. A lot of stuff. As of recent, mass shooting there in mosque. Now, the United States has increased security in mosques here in the United States. And but one of my main topics is for today is going to be, did the United States use Venezuela as an experiment while everything's going on that's going on there? Did they use, was the blackout an experiment for what may happen here? And to get a little bit of background on that, you're going to have to go back to 9/11. And what I mean by that is 6 months prior to September of 2001, Department of Homeland Security, or the FBI, CIA, the government had put out a intelligence warning, or an alert saying that terrorists were going to jack some planes. There's some words I can't use because it'll get flagged and then my videos will go downhill. But so I'm trying to use code words. So anyway, during that 6 months prior to that, or a year prior to that, the government had put out an alert saying that planes were going to be jacked by terrorists, and that it was a possibility that it might happen. Well, if you think it's now 2019, and could that same thing be unfolding again, but with a different weapon? And I mean, an EMP, or something to take down our electrical grid. So, just in 2018, the first start of 2018, Department of Homeland Security put out a warning stating that our infrastructure was going to be attacked, basically, and an EMP could be the cause of that. Now it's been a year since that they've said that, and you're like, well, what does that have to do with one thing to another? Well, Venezuela was just basically had their whole grid, nationwide, they were without electricity because of a cyber attack. while the humanitarian crisis was going on. A lot of people say that the U.S. is part of that. Some people say it was just an aging infrastructure. Well, you know what? That's what they say about the United States. We have an aging electrical grid, and there's nothing we can do about it. So, on top of that, could the blackout have been an experiment, or to see what happens when the electrical grid goes down, and to see what's going to happen, how things are going to escalate, how things are going to, what's going to happen to the people. And it just so happens that what the news is reporting isn't correct. What the mainstream media is reporting is everything's kind of fine and dandy, but it's not. And I'm going to show you proof of that here in just a minute. Over 150 children, babies, have died. And I'm going to say it's getting closer to over 500 adults have died by now. Malnutrition, water, diseases, the hospitals are shut down. I'm going to show you that. A lot of people haven't been showing these videos, but as you know, I like to show proof in my videos. So I'm going to show you that. And all that started happening after the blackout. Now, Maduro has come out and said that it was the United States that did it. If they did do it, was it just a test? Because they need to figure out if the theory of September of 2001 happens again, and it happens again in such a way this, coming soon, if it happens again and and that theory happens like it did the last time, they want to be ready for it. And yes, I'm saying that the United States will probably attack itself just like it did last time, just like a lot of people believe they did, just to start a war. And what war is that, you say? Well, World War III. So, knowing that, and the information I just gave you about the EMPs and the aging electrical grid, you can go look all that up for yourself. It's on the Department of Homeland Security website. The United States government has even changed the laws protecting themselves. Basically, the executive government is going to take care of themselves, use all the resources for themselves, while the American citizens are on their own. And if you're wondering why I'm rocking back and forth, it's because my back is hurting. And it just kind of keeps my mind off of it. Anyway, so is it a possibility that the blackout was the United States and it was an experiment while they were there? Well, you got to think the CIA was down there, and the CIA's job is to gather intel. That's mainly their job. They don't only gather intel, but they do some nasty stuff. So, the CIA's been in a lot of places they shouldn't be, in a lot of places, just like in North Korea, in Spain. I'm sorry, in Spain. North Korea, the diplomats to North Korea in Spain were just recently under attack, and people came in and stole a bunch of stuff. They were masked men. They come up and tied everybody up from come and tie the North Korean diplomats up and tied them up, stole their computers, stole all the electronics, and then left. North Korea didn't file a police report. They didn't tell their country, I don't think. And so, the CIA is capable of a lot of things we don't hear about. And so, the CIA, what it was doing in Venezuela, and yes, the United States did say the CIA was in Venezuela. And then all of a sudden their electrical grid goes out, and at the same time the United States itself has a pending attack. I'm going to call it a pending attack because I'm going to go ahead and say it. A pending EMP electrical grid attack. And I'm going to say that's going to happen in sometime 2020. Right before our next, right somewhere along the lines of our next presidency, it'll happen. And if the man that I thought, I had suggested that if the person who was going to run for president ran for president and he was going to be our war president, I would let you know. And that time has came. And the man that I thought was going to run for president, that's going to be our next war president, is Joe Biden. Joe Biden is good friends with the Bushes. And he's good friends with a lot of people. He is an elitist and possibly a child molester. Yes, I'm saying that he's possibly a child molester. And if you've seen some of the pictures of him hugging and kissing children, I know he's a grandpa, but dang, man. When you're in a celebrity position like that and you're always criticized under the microscope, some things you just don't do. So he is our war president. Donald Trump is not a war president. He is not a president that could ever go to war. And he's not going to. That's why everything that is done, every problem that has come about has basically been put on the back burner. Every time. North Korea, you hear a little bit about it, is taken away. Venezuela, we're not going to go to war just yet with Venezuela, if we even go to war at all. Everybody's saying, the news media is saying it's all about oil down there. It's not about oil. The United States is looking for someone to go to war with, and it's going to be a big war. Well, in order for the United States to have a war, well, we need to be attacked. When did that happen? Can anybody remember? Somebody wanted a war, but we had no reason to, so we needed to be attacked. So, this next EMP burst that the U.S. claims that Russia and China both have will eventually happen, and that will start off World War III. And the aim of World War III is not going to be land. It's not going to be oil. It's not going to be you're worse or bad. You're a bad country and you're hindering our freedom. It's going to be a one world government. That's what they're after. And so back to the blackout, that's all, it's all part of this. And people know that something's coming. A lot of people know that they can feel it. The USGS is blocking out data from the Cascadia subduction zone. They're blocking out data from Oregon and Washington. They're blocking out data from China and Russia. They're blocking out seismic data from all over the world. And we only have a few people tracking actually what's going on. Well, back to Venezuela. the whole nation, it just so happened that the whole nation went out in a single day. Prior to that, their grid wasn't too good, but they didn't have blackouts nationwide. And what you're seeing on the news about how even RT News is a Russian government funded news source. They're saying that everything's okay. There's nothing happening. Well, I'm going to show you what's happening there. Sorry, I got a runny nose. So let me switch screens here, and there I am. So I'm going to let you watch what is happening in Venezuela. So right now, this is the blackout, and this is internet connectivity that went down in Venezuela March 9th, and that was the internet, that was their servers and all that, and the electricity being hacked. So there is let me turn down the volume. That is a substation on fire. Here's another substation on fire. Whole substations exploded. All of them, just about all of them exploded. They went up into flames. Now, if you look at this video of those transformers going down, yeah, I could see the transformers going down. I could possibly see that. But as far as during this whole crisis, the whole substations blowing up, I don't believe that. I don't buy that that they're old and they done it on their own. I don't buy that.
Explotó la planta eléctrica de Terraza de Club Hípico.
So they, all right. So if you see this part of the video, they're looting at this one store. This is looting that's going on all across the nation. The electric's out. They can't get food. They can't get water. There's no use in my camera being on if you're looking at that. So right here, you can actually hear gunfire. These officers are chasing people out in front of that store, and they're shooting at them. They're actually killing people. And these cops, they get into this, they get it, they're just trying to shoot people. And they get into this car right here. They get into this regular car and they leave. They shoot people and then they leave. Weirdest thing I've ever seen in my life. So here's another video. They're looting all over the place, and there's fires all over Caracas. There's fires all over the place. And people think that this is what the CIA went down there and did. It's a possibility. It's a possibility. I said it was in another video. But as far as the blackout goes, the whole nation, this is people after water. They're at a store. They're trying to get water and food. And the news is not showing any of these videos to you as to what, you know, none of this is getting put on the news. The mainstream media is not covering any of this. RT News, as much anti-U.S. government stuff as they put, they're not even putting it on the news. There. And this right here is what I think the government intended to do with the blackout and having a cyber attack. And I believe they went down there and they needed to basically take notes to see what happened when you cut the power. When you cut the power to a country, and to see what happens, because it's never happened before. The power to a whole country has never been cut off before. It's never been attacked. They don't know how it's going to go. That's why I say all this could have been a test. This right here is a bunch of children, a bunch of babies. They're in the hospital being fanned because there's no air conditioning. All those poor little kids. Over 150 children, babies, over 150 babies have died. 500 and something plus adults, old people, and that's what they're being left to do. That's what they're doing. That's what they're trying to. While all this is going on, all this whole blackout stuff, and this is what they're left doing. So they during this whole blackout situation, they are the CIA sitting there taking what I believe they're doing. The CIA sitting there taking notes, trying to figure out what would happen if an electrical grid infrastructure went down, how the people would react, what they needed to do. They're using it as basically research and training, basically, is what I believe. Why they needed to attack the electrical grid, even if they did, to cause more chaos down there to a country they're not going to fight in the first place, is beyond me. So why go down there and do it at all? The only reason I could think of, they're not trying to really get Maduro out of there, I don't think. They just don't want Russia in there, for one. They don't want Russia in there. They don't want Russia in there. They don't care about oil. Okay, so here's what I learned about Venezuela's oil. Venezuela's oil is called the Ocana sands. It's called Venezuelan tar sands. And the reason it has that name is because Venezuelan oil is basically nothing but tar. Okay? Yes, by size and by the amount, Venezuela has the largest oil deposit in the whole world. This is true. However, Venezuelan oil is not oil at all. It's oil, but it's tar. And I do mean it's tar, like regular tar. And I'll show you what I'm talking about when I mean tar. And let me take this off of there. And what I mean by tar is it's actually tar. So let me find the tar. Okay, so here. It's actually tar. What you're seeing here is the type of tar I'm talking about. So they can't. The problem is that. All right. The problem is that Venezuela has this type of crude oil. Well, the problem is that it's too deep. It's too far down, and it's too thick to pump to the surface. So they can only pump about 25% of the oil out of the ground. That tar, they can only pump about 25% of out. Secondly, they have to dilute it down in order to get it out, which makes it even more expensive. So they already got a drilling operation on top of diluting it down before they can even pump it out of the ground. And then once they once they pump it out of the ground, it has to go to a refinery and be reduced down even further. There's only a handful of refineries that are equipped to handle this type of oil. They can't. There's not many. However, trust me, it's what they call sweet crude. They have sweet crude and sour crude. Sweet crude it doesn't have a lot of sulfur to it. Sour crude has a lot of sulfur, and they use it to make other things out of that. Sweet crude is what you get out of your regular oils. Now, about the other 75% of the other unrecoverable oil, it's so far down they can't reach it, and almost they can barely get it out of the ground now because they don't have the technology, and the technology to pump that out of the ground does not exist. So even if they tried to pump it out of the ground, the technology they would need to pump it out doesn't exist. So therefore, it's worthless. Venezuelan oil is don't listen to what the mainstream media is telling you about Venezuelan oil. Venezuelan oil is not. We don't get to. Have you hardly ever in your life of almost my 40 years of being on this earth, I've never hardly heard anything about Venezuelan oil. Every now and again, once every 10 years or so. And that's just because of a happenstance. I happened to read up on it. And to do this live video, I had to do a lot of research on that. And it just so happens that Venezuelan oil, if you could get it, is worth a lot of money. But right now, the technology just doesn't exist. It's hard to pump out of the ground. They're only pumping. They try to say that the United States is trying to. The mainstream media, is saying that Venezuela is the United States' #3 oil producer. Well, they aren't. First of all, it's the United States. United States is #1 now. 2 is Saudi Arabia or Iraq or Iran. 3 is Canada. 4 is Russia. Venezuela is ranked 6th. The United States, after this year, does not need to import any oil at all. 0. It has enough oil to sustain itself for the next 100 years. It does not need. It's not the #1 oil producing state on this planet. Now, if Venezuela could actually get to their crude oil, they would be. However, Venezuela is only pumping out 211,000 barrels a day. That's it. They're not pumping out any more than that. And that's because they can't get to it. Their equipment doesn't work right half the time. They have a lot of thefts down there. Even the Citgo runs just about all that down there, and they have the money to do all that, and they could barely pump out 211,000 barrels of it. You know, why aren't all these companies down there pumping out all this oil if it's that much of a problem? I mean, we have people that can go to the bottom of the ocean, but they can't. And we have rigs out in the ocean that drill miles down into the earth, but they can't, for some reason, reach Venezuelan oil. That's because they don't have it. They don't have the oil that they're saying they have. Venezuelan oil is nothing but tar. It's the same thing that's at the La Brea tar pits in Los Angeles. Same exact stuff. It's called it's called ultra heavy crude. There's ultra heavy crude, there's heavy crude, and then there's light crude. Light crude is what you make oil out of, and gas. You can make it out of heavy crude. If you have heavy crude, you can make oil and diesel and gas and diesel out of that too. But it has to be diluted. You can't hardly pump it out. Have you, in the history of the United States, ever thought about... The United States has never thought about going to Venezuela and jumping in on their oil because they don't hardly have any. Their oil program is zil. It's null. It's zilch compared to what everybody else is pumping out. So they're not down there for oil. Sorry about the rant. I had to say that. Once I found out about Venezuelan oil and what it was worth and what they was doing, it comes out that Venezuelan oil, Venezuelan heavy crude, is only worth about $1 a barrel. That's how bad it is. That's how bad their oil is. Manufacturers, this year they canceled. The United States actually canceled 6 shipments. 6 shipments of Venezuelan oil because of the quality of oil it was. They had to cancel it. That's how bad it was. You can look all that information up for yourself. Any information I provide you is based on factual information. You can't pay no attention to what the mainstream media says because they're giving a handout. Official statements are prepared for them by the government. You can't pay no attention to that. Read the information for yourself. So that leaves my main headline. That goes back to my main headline. What are they doing there? What are they doing in Venezuela? They're trying to start World War III. They need somewhere to start. And while they're there, why not black out the whole country? Why not do an electrical grid test? This time, when the United States gets attacked in the next 1 year, and the next 1 year, when the United States gets attacked, supposedly gets attacked in the next year, it's going to be by electrical grid. If it isn't by a natural event. Because it seems like the United States government is getting ready for some sort of natural event that they think may be coming. Whether it's from the pole shift, since then the earthquakes have increased since the pole shift started. Yeah, that's they line up. It's not solar storms. Solar storms aren't causing the earthquakes. Uh, Neutrinos from the solar storms going into the earth, heating up the core, causing the plates to move. It's not that, because we haven't hardly had any solar storms. We've had a few, but nothing like it should be. Nothing to affect the Earth. Most of it's blocked by our magnetic field in our atmosphere. Yes, I know about science too. You have a lot. All this stuff that's going on in Venezuela is nothing more. The blackout, I'll tell you that. The blackout, I know for a fact, is a is an experiment. That's all that is. And it's getting ready to happen here. And a lot of people are like, they know that something's coming, they just don't know what. Because things are happening on a natural level that we can't control, but we feel that something's growing bigger. We don't know which one's going to hit first. That's basically where all your alternative medias and your preppers and your conspiracy theorists on YouTube, they can tell something's coming. They just don't know which one of the two it is. And I'm gonna show you this video of it is of RT News, and I want to show you this video. It's of RT News. And I want you to listen. This is basically how the government changes things and what they do to change things.
We begin with a special team coverage in Venezuela. Blackouts are continuing, and U.S. diplomats are preparing to leave as the situation grows more desperate. Sarah Montez de Oca has the latest on the powerful crisis in the country. But first, we go to RT's Rachel.
Actually, that's not the video. Sorry. Okay, here it is. So.
And this is a nation that is used to having power outages, not necessarily the water issues that they're facing today. Do you think, however, it is working in some form of changing the tone of people? Are people getting tired and fed up and looking for some sort of a relief, regardless of whoever brings it? Is these kinds of activities actually working to persuade the people to one side of the opinion or the other? Not necessarily the water issues that they're facing today. Do you think, however, it is working in some form of changing the tone of people? Are people getting tired and fed up and looking for some sort of relief, regardless of whoever brings it? Is these kinds of
her talking about being fed up.
People to one side of the opinion or the other?
And that's the way the government works.
Have a lot of theft.
And that's exactly how the government works. They
and this is a nation that is used
just how
to
she
having
said.
Power outages, not necessarily the water issues that they're facing today. Do you think, however, it is working?
Just how they said
they changing the tone of people? Are people getting tired and fed up?
They start committing these. The government commits these acts, and
these kinds of activities
they want to put someone into power, or they want to change the government. Well, in order to change the government, and the people says no. Just say, take that for instance. They want to change the government and the people says no. Well, and the government really wants to do it. What happens next? Are they just going to take that? Do you honestly think that they're going to take that, or do you think they're going to keep trying? Have they always kept trying to change the government? Has the Democrats always kept trying to control the guns? Yes. Are they ever going to stop? No. So what do? So what do? They have to devise a plan in order to get you to change your mind, in order to persuade you. And yes, that's the CIA acts that way against their own country. The CIA, the FBI, the military, all of them, they act against the United States. They use those agencies for political reasons. We've proved that with Hillary Clinton. We've proved that with a lot of government officials, that they act politically against the public's best interest with controlling sources or controlling agencies like the FBI, CIA, our own police, our state police. And it'll get worse. And so when the United States wants to change and the people says no, or they think they'll say no, then they have to do something in order to get them to change their mind. So something like, if you want something like a one world order, a one world government to start, in order to do that, you have to break the whole government system down. But not to a point to where they don't have control, but to a point to where the people says, okay, we can't do this no more. Come help us. And they lead it in a direction. They lead the people in a direction that they want them to. Basically, they're the shepherd and we're the sheep. So if, just take for instance, if the government wanted control of your guns and wanted to take your guns, what do you think they would do? They would just come out and take them? No. You'd see a lot of bad stuff going on right then, wouldn't you? So what would you see? You would see increased shootings. You would see increased shootings. You would see increased mass shootings. Increased mass shootings. Is that what you would see? Yes. And then if that didn't work, what else would you see? How could it get any worse? Adults committing mass shootings all over the planet, all over the United States. How could it get any worse? People don't want to move then. Oh, let's take it a step further. Okay, let's take it a step further. What's the next step after that? Mass shootings in schools. That's how it gets worse. A lot of people believe that the government wouldn't do such a thing, or it's impossible for that to happen. The government just went down to Venezuela and overthrew a whole country in a matter of a week. They toppled a whole country in a matter of a week. What do you mean they can't do it? They went to Afghanistan and shoved our military so far up Afghanistan's ass that they gave up in 3 weeks. Yes, 3 weeks. The war in Afghanistan was over in 3 weeks. And you're like, well, after the war in Afghanistan was on, where'd they move to next? Iraq. They went straight for Iraq after that. They was already there. They toppled a whole country. They took over a whole country in 3 weeks. So in Venezuela, we shut down a whole country in a week. Our government did shut down a whole country in a week with no military. And you don't think that they could do that to us for a control measure? If they're willing to do it to other nations' peoples, what makes you think they're not willing to do it to us? They're human beings just like we are. Are they not? There's small children. I just showed you small children, babies. Small children, innocent people, innocent old people, innocent children, innocent babies. They're willing to go hack the United States, the Venezuelan grid to do all that. They're willing to do all that, right? And you honestly think that they wouldn't do that here? There's no way for them to have mass shootings or even to develop something like that. You know, a lot of the mass shootings, they have odd endings. Take for instance, we never see any of the evidence from any of the mass shootings that's taking place. Never. None of the weapons, hardly, none of the guns, the crime scene. All we hear about is that a man did it and here he is. That's all you get. You know, after just say, you know, take the Las Vegas shooter for instance. He was killed instantly. You know, they killed him. He killed himself on the spot. He had like a couple video cameras set up in the room. You know, that video camera didn't show anybody shooting any people, so you'd like to think that the FBI would give us that. Play it on TV. Give it to the mainstream media. It doesn't show people getting killed. They actually showed people getting killed on mainstream media. At the time of the shooting, they actually showed it. But they won't show us the guy shooting out his window. Even though they say they have a video of it. So how do they... Did you all know the CIA was in Venezuela? Did they come and tell you? How about this? Did you all know that a few months ago, Donald Trump issued an executive order to stop a pedophile ring of 70,000 members that was headquartered in Washington, D.C.? You didn't hear about that on the news either, did you? Was that covert enough? I'm not understanding why people think that that people don't that the control our government has over us isn't bad, and they've made you think that. If you can look at something, if something the government is doing, what the laws that the government is making now is they're totally illegal, totally illegal. Even in my own city, even in my own county, they're illegal as hell. Take for instance, in my county, in my city, I looked up the ordinances, the city ordinances for our local government. They haven't been changed. One of the things, one of the articles hadn't been changed since 1986, which was how much our politicians, our elected officials get paid. Well, the mayor gets 4,000 years per annum. That's $4,000 per year. Our city commissioners, our magistrates, I think somewhere around $2,000 a year, which means that you would have to have a full-time job in order to do that. We had one mayor that kept a full-time job the whole time he was our mayor, and he got paid the amount of money he's gotten paid. But since him, all of our mayors and all our commissioners have been full-time and have been paid I don't know how much money. And it's illegal. They're paying themselves buku's amounts of money, and they're only supposed to get paid $4,000, $2,000. law hasn't changed on that. They've made their positions full-time positions. Well, you know what? It'd be different if our law wasn't that. If our law said we need to pay our mayor full-time job $100,000 a year, so be it. But that's not what our law says. Our law says our mayor gets paid $4,000 a year, which means he has to have a full-time job, because the only job that pays a salary is, based on our city ordinances, is the county attorney. He's the only one that gets paid a full wage, a full salary. And most cities and most counties were like that, and they did that because you were a civil servant, you were a public servant, and that's what you were. You help the community. That's what those positions are. You're a civil servant. You help the community. And the government went back then, said, hey, if you're going to help your community, well, why do you need money to help your community? Why do you need money to run your own community? Why do you expect to get paid for that? So they paid them a little, which is fair. If you're helping your own community, fine. That's fine. And, I'm going to show you another video. Sorry about that. I'm going to show you another video. A lot of people don't know about this. I'm going to cover a bunch of topics. And a lot of people don't actually know about this. And from what I gather, I understand why not a lot of people know about it. But I published one video about Apophis, about an asteroid that's supposed to hit the Earth. Well, every day we have asteroids that are coming close to the Earth. Every day. And we always see articles in the newspaper about how they're going to hit the Earth, and they're going to pass so close by, and all of them are always passing 3, 4, 5, 6 million miles away, and they say those are close approaches. No, I'm going to show you a close approach that nobody hardly knows about. And they've been tracking this thing since 1999. And I'm going to show you two videos. One is of 1999 AN10. That's the name of the asteroid. 1999 AN10. And yes, they know about it. This asteroid is exactly 0.8 miles across, so 0.8 of a mile across, somewhere between a half mile and 0.8 of a mile across. And it was founded in 1999, and the asteroid itself okay, so here you go. So this asteroid itself is something similar to the one you're seeing on your screen. As a matter of fact, it's probably really close. So it's got two parts to it, and it looks like a snowman, kind of like a half a snowman. And there's another video that looks kind of like there is a snowman, but this one's the closest one I found. They didn't have a video of it, but I'm showing you this one. The asteroid looks, the grainy image looks almost exactly like this one. So 1999 AN10 is scheduled to swing by Earth in the year 2027 or maybe 26. I think it's maybe 2026. Maybe no, I think it's 2027. So it's scheduled to swing by Earth October of 2027, and it swings by Earth every 2 years. They have tracked it back, tracked its coordinates back all the way to 1944. They tracked it all the way back to 1944. Well, it's been coming closer and closer. The orbit changes every time it goes around the sun, and it keeps getting pulled closer and pulled closer towards our planet. And every year it comes around. So right now it's I think it's getting ready to pass us by right about now. So the thing is that this thing is supposed to pass us by at 19,000 miles away from the Earth. The closest that any asteroid has ever come towards the Earth, during humanity's times anyway. And the thing is that they are unsure, just like they are of Apophis. They are unsure about their trajectory. I think the 19,000 miles away thing was just a bold-faced lie, because why would you say it was 19,000 miles away? And it's a half mile wide. And right now, the percentage of the chance that this asteroid will hit is higher than, I think, 1 in 10,000 chance. It's a 1 in 10,000 chance that it may hit, and I think they tracked the orbit. I think they tracked the orbit to somewhere in China. Now, here's the messed up thing. Every year, NASA has what's called a space defense kind of a meeting or something like that. It's called a PDC or SPDC, and it's basically to this 2017 was actually to plan an emergency situation around an asteroid hitting Earth and to play that theory out. So they went through this whole meeting discussing how to, stop this asteroid from hitting us, and a asteroid. And the asteroid was just so happened to be like a mile to a half mile wide asteroid hitting Earth, and it just so happened that that asteroid would be going somewhere around China, somewhere around there, and it just so happened that the guy I have the video. The guy giving the lecture said this is all theoretical. And it even says on the paper that all of it is an exercise only. Well, it just so happens that this one asteroid right here lines up with their exact plan, or their exact emergency plan, to where they are actually launching 3 satellites into space to push this satellite away, to push this rock away. And that's all. That's all just a an emergency drill. It's not real. But it just so happened the guy had let slip in 2017. He was watching the video that he was talking about a satellite, and that a satellite, and he let slip that a satellite was being funded and has been funded for the last 18 months. And I was looking at it, I was like, do what? I thought it was all theoretical. Why would you say this has been funded for the last 18 months? And I come to find out, all of it was true. Every bit of it was true. And it just so happens that, let's see if I can find this. It just so happens that I don't know where it went to. It just so happens that NASA is building a satellite to do just that. It's not OSIRIS-REx. It's not this one, but I think it's the same mission. I'm pretty sure it's the same mission. This one's actually to go over. This one's actually, the mission I'm looking for is actually the one that's supposed to I think it's called it's the NEOWISE one. And anyway, it's supposed to deploy 2 satellites, and it's supposed to knock a satellite out of orbit, off its orbit. Well, it just so happens that the orbit, that all of it was based on everything that the NASA had planned and everything that NASA had said in the PDC, I think it was. It's on. You can find it on YouTube. Everything that they said was based on that one asteroid right there. Everything was based on it, and they were trying to capture this, not capture it, but knock it out of the way before it hits Earth. And they called it an experiment. In the video, it was all fake. It was just an emergency drill. And then it just so happened to line up with these satellites that they were launching. And it just so happened to, the dates and times matched up. The location of the asteroid matched up to where they were going to be. And everything matched up perfectly. So this asteroid right here, 1999 AN10, is supposed to come near Earth in 2027 or something like that. Here it is right here. It shows you swinging by Earth. Here's the thing. So it shows its orbit, and it keeps, I'm guessing it keeps getting pulled in farther and farther into the sun. Well, its orbit, its orbit brings it 19,000 miles away from the Earth. Well, that changed, and they are saying that this thing may impact us, and they've known about it since 1999. Well, the problem is that all the and this is a NASA. This is all NASA. This is a NASA chart, and I found very little about this asteroid. Very little. I couldn't hardly find anything. So NASA was trying to say that it was, if anything, it would be 19,000 miles away. Well, other scientists say that it's going to hit us, and these the drill that they were running, for on at the NASA conference is actually true, and it lines up perfectly with this asteroid and what they are doing with it. The dates, the times, everything. The date that it's supposed to come in and line up with this other asteroid that's supposed to be close to this one, when the other asteroid isn't even coming close to us. But this one is. So let me find it. So yeah, I've already looked at NASA asteroid PCD. It's a PCD conference. Let's see if I can find it. I have the video downloaded, but I'm going to show it to you on here. I don't know why it brought up NASA glitter bomb. I don't know what that is. And it's something like that redirect mission, but it turns out that like I said, everything lines up perfectly with it. I think, I don't know why that keeps popping up, but it's as asteroid impact. God dang it! Of course I can't find it. Give me 1 second, I'll find it. Yeah, Planetary Defense Conference is what it is. So anyway, this one is from 2017, and if you listen to this and then turn around and go, I've watched all of it a bunch of times. If you listen to this and you go watch it and then go back and put the launch with the Neo-Ys together, and you put the launch with Neo-Ys and all that, if you put it all together, matches up perfectly. It matches up freaking perfectly. So, yeah, I just wanted to come on and do a live video of that. I haven't done one in a while. I got a couple things in there that I wanted to talk about. I'm glad I've got 85 subscribers now. I hope you are enjoying the videos. And like I said, I hope you all continue to watch. And like I said, I'm gonna try to get into some some guests, and try to get some guests to talk. And I'm gonna try to do maybe a call-in show or something like that. So, but as I was talking about, oh look. As I was talking about the what Venezuela is, I'm pretty sure that all that was a test to see how citizens react to no electricity, and how bad it gets, and what the United States needs to prep for when it happens here. And I believe that's what that is. I believe that's just the United States. They did a test. They had no reason to cut the power down there at all. You know, they had no reason to make it worse. Things was already bad. And so, you know, you might as well just not even worry about it. So I think it was a test. All that was a test. And the CIA was down there was down there anyway, and I believe that's why they went down there and they took down the grid. Because Department of Homeland Security actually put out that report a year ago saying that our own electrical grid would be is vulnerable, and somebody is likely to target it, and somebody's likely to strike it. And then, like I said, everybody it's a known fact that a year prior to 9/11, the government come out and said that planes were going to be hijacked, and that happened. So DHS put out another alert saying this is going to happen. So it's probably more than likely it's going to happen. So, all right, everybody. Peace out.
May God be with you.
Was you back there listening to me?
This is not a test.
Why that? You know, I might just start making another. I might make another a YouTube channel called Why That News. It's gonna be Why That News. Why That News. Why That News. Why That News. All right, everybody. Peace out.